My dryer quit heating the other day when I was using it, so I decided to take a look. Usually something like that means there's something wrong with powering the heating element. Right here we need to take off the screws on the back panel so we can get to the inside of the dryer. Right here, the high temperature cutoff switch has actually cooked itself because it failed and is falling apart. We'll need to disconnect the wire terminals from it, or what's left of it. Here we're going to check the existing thermal cutoffs for the low, medium, and high temperature settings to ensure that they're still good. None of them show bad through the resistance. Here's the high temperature cutoff. You can see that it just completely fell apart when I tried to pull the wire terminals off. Here's one of the terminals that I had to pull off. You can see how it overheated and cooked the insulation back. What I'll do is I'll end up cutting this wire back some and then putting a pigtail on it, much like the red ones also in the picture. It's important to use the proper gauge of wiring though. Here you can see where the wire's burned, it's completely brittle and really stiff. Where it's not burned, it's nice and soft and it's still pliable. Put the new high temperature cutoff in, and then we'll connect the new terminals to it. Connect up the existing terminal wire here, and then make sure there's plenty of room. Strip and twist in the new pigtail on this so that we can put this up onto the existing high temperature cutoff. We don't want to bypass this because we want that cutoff to actually work, because that prevents and is a major safety component of the dryer. The new high temperature cutoff came with its own terminator, so I'm simply crimping down a new one onto the new pigtail wire that I created, and then we'll size it for length and make sure it's all good and bound together. It's important to twist the wire the direction that the wire nut is going to screw on, otherwise you'll untwist it as you screw the wire nut on. We have the new wire nut and pigtail on. We'll simply reconnect the terminal onto the new high temperature cutoff. I've got the high temperature cutoff all back together and it looks fine. Now I'm going to do some more further testing and investigation of the low, medium, and high temperature cutoffs for the temperature selectors. One of these has to be bad. One way you can check these is by taking them out and putting them on a grill and then checking the resistance once it hits a certain temperature. Each one is listed by its part number specification, so you should be able to look at what temperature it'll close. In the case of this, what I did was I turned the dryer on and went through each section, and I realized at one point that the medium temperature was not actually turning off, so I pulled it out and swapped it out with an adjustable one, as the standard one has been discontinued. Adjustable one right here is the original. It operates at section D and turns it off at 150 degrees. Before I assemble everything back, I'm going to do another temperature test to make sure all the temperature cutoffs are working properly and are turning the heating element off when they're supposed to. Sped this up because this process takes quite a while, but ultimately with the new high temperature cutoff and the medium temperature cutoff, everything appeared to be working properly. It's always a good idea to every now and then preventatively do some maintenance on your dryer, clean all the lint out and everything. So while I had the back cover off, I decided to clean out all the lint and everything off the back components, because lint buildup is a fire hazard. Right here you might notice some dust flying through the air. Turns out my shop vac was not all the way snapped on and actually was blowing small particulates like fine dust as well as drywall pieces out, and eventually the room started getting foggy. That's when I noticed it. Oops. Right here on the back of the heating element shroud as well as the back cover, there's a little bit of a burn mark or scorch mark. That is because the high temperature thermostat didn't actually shut it off. Instead it just melted until it fell apart. This caused everything to get extremely hot right where the heating element is, which was ultimately really unsafe. Now we just put all the screws back in the back cover and put the dryer back where it needs to go.